Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekend Rental, episode 118. We are your gaming and geek culture podcast. As always, my name is Ryan, and I'm joined by Andy.
Hey.
All right. As always, if you enjoy our content, head on over to geekade.com. Check out all the great geeky-related content over there, whether it's video games, movies, music, comics, and so much more. You can find it all over at geekade.com. What's your geek? All right, we got some topics for this week, but I have a bone to pick with you.
Yeah.
You have sidetracked my daily routine thanks to turning me on to Wordle, and I don't know whether to be upset about it or happy about it.
Yeah, I just can't believe how long you really take it seriously. Like you really methodically go through your guesses.
Yeah, I am like, so I am very cautious with my guesses, and because I really want to get them as quickly as possible. So I will not, like, I don't like to put in anything where I'm going to have to like fudge it and use a letter that's already off the board just to like try and answer. I mean, yeah, I've had some doozies. That the Knoll Monday, like, had I not like ass backwards stumbled into the double L's with my third crazy guess, because what was my third guess? It was a word that I didn't even know was a word, but I just plugged it in and hoped, and it took it, and then that locked it in, and I figured out Knoll. But yeah, that was like an hour of like anguish on those last two guesses.
Yeah, that one was probably by far the trickiest one. I think I've missed one so far that I haven't gotten. And that one was right at the end. I got that one, but
yeah, because most of them are pretty chill. Like, I feel like averaging, the right answer on your fourth guess is like pretty normal for most of them. I don't think I've gotten like 2 in the 5s, but like, yeah, usually like 3 to 4 is kind of where I land.
Yep.
So I'm curious, what's your starting word?
It varies, but most of the time I think I'm going to switch it up because I think they are, they try and go away from it. So I use like tiers or, something that has both E and A and then TRS in it.
Yeah. I find eliminating vowels as quickly as possible is like definitely the way to go.
Right.
Because like you can't spell too many words without vowels.
Yep.
Or at least most of them. Yeah. Mine is always learn.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah.
Learn is my starting one. And it's surprisingly not failed me. I always get at least one.
Right. Yep. Yeah. Usually I probably get about 1 yellow or so out of that. Yeah. But it's interesting because sometimes like my wife uses young a lot, which is way out of the box, but she ends up getting a lot more of those that I think you can quickly find out a word if you luckily get them in the right spot right away.
Okay. Yeah. I could see that.
But I mean, at the end of the day, you're just eliminating letters down to.
Yeah, it is. It is exactly Mastermind as you pitched it to me, which was what made me want to do it because I love Mastermind.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like that, but for people who need to spell. And today's pissed me off. Hold on, I can look at what I had. I made like the dumbest guess and I was just pissed off. Let me pull it up quick. And then I immediately just thought of masturbating all day. I think it's the one today. But I'm such a moron. Okay, so I had learn was my first one, right? So I got the A. So next one I guessed, okay, I don't want to repeat any letters. So I go with stamp. Again, I hit on nothing but A, which is already in the right spot. So I know that I've eliminated pretty much all these vowels and I've got an A in the middle, right? And I have no other real vowels that make sense. So it's got to be like a HA sort of word is like what I'm figuring, right? Like I'm like, it's got to be like a hua or something. And I, for the life of me, could not think of a WHA because I was like, it's got to be WHA. And I'm like, I can't think of a single word that would possibly be. So I guess chaff is my third guess. And I was like, motherfucker. And then as soon as I do that, I was like, God damn it. Because I got the C. I was like, whack. I'm like, how could I not? It's always like, I always do this. I get to like the third pick and I just like overthink it. And I go for like these really weird words. And maybe Noel had me a little bit on edge. But like, and the fact that I know that the guy's from the UK and now lives, like, I'm always thinking like, what's a very fucking UK sounding word? You know what I mean? Yep. And it always screws me. I should just go with the easy one.
Yeah.
And then I whacked. So, yeah.
Well, my wife, she showed me like how she went through it today, and she went through like 20 letters, and it's like the only other letters were like, Q, Z, V, and it's like, oh yeah, wow, you just went through everything until it was basically you had nothing left other than to choose whack.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I landed too. Like I had pretty much I had no real choices. Like I had IO and U obviously still on the table, but those don't work at all in that configuration. So like, I got lucky. Like, although I'm kind of pissed that I didn't get it on the third guess, but should have gone with my gut. And chaff was such a dumb guess because I wasted F on 2 spots. Made me mad.
Yeah.
Damn you, Wordle.
Have you moved on to Loodle yet?
No, what is this?
It's basically Wordle with 30 words.
Oh, Loodle.
So it's just 30 words. The only problem is you don't realize how little 5-letter dirty words there are. There's a lot of 4-letter ones.
Yeah, you could pluralize a lot of stuff like fucks and
right. But once that S isn't there, then it's like, well, now what?
Right.
But
how many O's are in Poon? No, I don't. I'll have to check that one out. My only complaint is like I wish Wordle reset as you completed it. Like I just want more Wordle. Like I want to take a shit later on in the day and play another Wordle. And it pisses me off that I have to wait until the morning to do it. So I don't know. I like it. It's a stupid game. It's a stupid not game.
Yeah.
Enjoying it.
Isn't that weird how maybe what we'll talk about next, that, some of the biggest gaming things in the world are spending a ton of money on each other, and everybody's talking about some
free website
from the UK. We're playing some word.
Yeah. So we want to jump into that news because this is a big one. I mean, by the time this comes out, we'll be a little late to the game, but we've had the benefit of some more subsequent news and discussions kind of following. But of course, we're referring to Microsoft outright trying to buy Activision Blizzard for $69 billion, which both boards have agreed to. I guess it's just a matter of governing bodies like approving the sale, but kind of unprecedented. Not even kind of, it is unprecedented. I mean, their acquisition of Bethesda was huge, but like this is like what, the number 1 or 2 independent like publishing companies?
Yeah, I think they're the biggest gaming third party. Yeah,
because they're above EA.
Yeah, I don't. Maybe Ubisoft is bigger across across the world, but yeah, that's something that you would have never imagined could be possible, but here we are.
Yeah, and there's just so much to consider with it too. I mean, there's a lot rolled into there, a lot more than people realize. I mean, Activision, well, Blizzard's been in a rough spot. Activision has kind of like a lot of their main franchises are long in the tooth, like your Call of Duties. But there's so many IPs in their back catalog. I mean, they through acquisitions they've absorbed Sierra. So the number of games that the classic franchises that they own just through Sierra alone is crazy. But I think the first big thing that comes to mind is how are they going to address the current public image of that organization? Because arguably, I think Activision and Blizzard find themselves in a position where they're willing to accept a buyout of this nature because of everything they're reeling from in a public image standpoint, and that probably made this happen. But now Microsoft has to figure out how they're going to address what is clearly a poisoned business culture and align it with Microsoft, which I'm sure there's plenty of shade that goes around Microsoft, but tends to have a better, it would appear, corporate culture. And then how they're going to deal with that. I got to imagine they're going to fire some people. I can't imagine the current CEO of Activision Blizzard's going to get to keep his job after he takes his big payout.
No. I mean, honestly, like, that's half the reason this is done is so you have to imagine at some point, this is a little bit selfish, even on his terms, to be like, if I keep going the way where I'm going to get fired. So let's sell the company and I can walk out the door.
Yeah. With $1 billion more than they already have. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And that'll be the thing that's the big thing I'm curious on is like, obviously Microsoft knows what they're getting into and they know that they've got a huge hurdle there and an HR nightmare and employees to bring into the fold and, do right by. So I can't imagine what they're thinking, at that point, but at the same time, like, what was it? The 2 days following or the day following, they announced that new corporate structure for Microsoft Gaming, and they've got Phil Spencer leading that CEO now, which, I mean, I don't know if there's been a more respected figure in modern gaming. Seems genuinely passionate about it, and he seems like a really good dude. So I think he's the right guy for it. But it was nice to see that, it was nice to see that layout of who was going to be executives up there running things with him, and that it was a very even playing field split between females and males, so you're not getting this like typical boys club thing that you tend to see in like large gaming companies. So I think that will probably help.
Right. Especially what caused the problems here in the first place was all of that.
Discrimination.
I was thinking about that. Do you think this is the most expensive Me Too basic cancel? I mean, it's the only reason it happened for the most part, right. I would imagine.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. It's probably the most significant one. Yeah.
Like I can think of a lot that, obviously movie studios, if a person's canceled, they probably lose some revenue from whatever project that they're missing out on. But
you don't generally lose your $70 billion business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
just crazy how a few dudes can destroy a whole industry almost.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot to be hopeful for. I mean, Blizzard has been on a downward spiral pretty much since they've joined with Activision. I feel like, their name has gotten besmirched. They've lost, and Activision's lost good people too, but it's like, can Blizzard like get the right atmosphere back and the right people in to like reinvigorate their franchises? They teased a survival game that they're going to be releasing, I guess. That got a couple vague screenshots and no details, but I'm looking at it and like, man, all these great companies that got rolled into the Call of Duty machine, right? Like Vicarious Visions could be pulled back out to do like cool shit again. Like Neversoft Neversoft could be revived. You know what I mean? Like you could have all these companies who got their souls just extinguished because they weren't allowed to work on things that they wanted and be creative. They just had to become, the people who made the foliage for this new multiplayer map for Call. You know what I mean? So it's exciting. Whether or not any of that comes to light, I don't know, but it's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly makes Game Pass, it's beyond a good deal now. It's
a must.
It's required gaming at this point.
100%. Yeah. With all the potential. Cause like you were saying, I mean, you've got, you don't think about it, but it's like, oh, they have Tony Hawk. They have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater now. Like they have Spyro. They have
Crash Bandicoot, which is crazy. Yeah.
They have Skylanders. They have Guitar Hero. They have Leisure Suit Larry. They have I don't know, Phantasmagoria. What's some other Sierra? I mean, they got everything. They got so much stuff. So like, God, even if they just resurrected some of that stuff and did like retro, even if they just get them running on the service, you could just dump so much of that, not even updated, onto Game Pass. And you've now just like, they've basically bought this backlog of games from the last 20 years, and the majority of them are killer that people remember.
Yeah.
And all they have to do now, even if they don't do new things with them, which I hope they do, and different things, but like, you've just now bought your library, right? Exclusive to them.
Yep. And you know, there was like, what, 4 years ago when they were kind of doing it on their E3 thing about like how they bought like 13 different studios or something like that. And half of them were just like kind of new, and you know, they haven't really proven themselves to have too much of skill, but they'd have a hit game or something like that. But I could see that having all those like lesser known studios that they bought, match them up with some random old Activision IP.
Yeah.
And just go to town. It's like a match made in heaven then, you know?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it could be great. And then the other thing too is like, let's be real, you know, the news has started coming out. Well, I guess it's not really news. It's just kind of like arbitrary side conversations that, like, of course, this is what people are going to say, but you know, Sony took to the media and was like, well, we certainly hope that Microsoft is going to honor the contracts we have in place. And, you know, Phil Spencer's coming out and like, of course we're going to honor the contracts. Cause yeah, nobody wants a lawsuit, but there's no fucking way that after these negotiations and these contracts come out, that Microsoft is not going to pull some of this stuff exclusively into them. It's
yeah, for sure.
It's not going to happen. And you know what? Phil Spencer's been out there talking for years how games as a service is their platform. You know what? I'm not going to be shocked if in 5 years, Microsoft is like, nah, sorry, you don't get the next Call of Duty PlayStation. Or how about we install our Game Pass app on your PlayStation 5? And Sony's going to have to be like, yeah, I mean, we have to, because we don't have another Call. You know what I mean? We don't have a killer app to compete with Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And I don't, it's such a big bargaining chip. It's such a big bargaining chip. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I wonder which one of it will do it first. You know, they've been trying to get it on Nintendo for a real long time already too, but
I think Nintendo's going to be a tough nut to crack just because of the whole family focus and not really understanding the internet, but I could see them weaseling their way onto PlayStation. There's just so much power there with all those assets. And the other thing that I'm super excited about is I have refused to kind of go back to World of Warcraft because I don't like the subscription model, and like the game hasn't updated that much, but like I would love to see them take that, because like it's dying off, right? Like the subscription base for World of Warcraft is down, but like I would love to see them be like, hey, if you have Game Pass Ultimate, guess what? WoW is just included. You get to play that for free every month, one account. You know what I mean?
Right, because they own the cloud service for it, you know. So like
100%. Yeah, and it's just like, all right, well, you got this huge recognizable thing that's going to die anyway. They could breathe a shit ton of new life back into it, sell a bunch of microtransactions. And I mean, BattleNet's going to have to go away, right? Like BattleNet will not continue to exist for Call of Duty and stuff, I would imagine. There's no point.
Yeah, probably not.
But yeah, I mean, it's big. I mean, you think about what they're bringing in. They're going to recover that money so fast between Call of Duties and Diablo 4. And I mean, it's nuts. So I don't know how much it will. Do you think it will impact them this generation though? Or do you think it's going to take like, because it's not, the sale is not going to be finalized till 2023, you know, to really shift and reorganize development. I mean, that's going to be
Call of Duty is
years.
I think it said 3 years, right? It's going to be
three entries.
3 entries. Okay.
Which they're counting as the release this year, the subsequent one next year, and an overhaul to Warzone.
Okay.
Or what is it? Yeah, Warzone. technically, if that's true, and those are the 3, after next year's full-fledged entry, they would be done with having to license them to PlayStation 5.
Right. Which, you know, the one for next year, they're probably not going to have their hands on too long anyway.
Right.
It's going to be like the Deathloop situation all over again.
Yeah. So by 2024, you could have all those exclusive. I can't imagine they would take a free-to-play game like Warzone and lock that down. Like, I could see that just being out everywhere, right? You know, they didn't take Minecraft away from PlayStation. You know, why would you? It's too ubiquitous. But it's foolish to believe that they won't keep those mainline entries to themselves at some point in the future, because why wouldn't you? You know what I mean?
Yeah. The question is, when does it stop? When does the Call of Duty money train end? I mean, that's been a question for 10 years at this point. But
probably as soon as Battlefield starts getting good again, which ain't happening anytime soon. I mean, I don't know. Call of Duty's been on life support for a while, right? Like, the big heyday was like the mid 2010 era.
Yeah,
it's probably like peak. So,
but it's still huge. I mean, it sells a shit ton still, but
yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
So Destiny goes to Bungie, right? Bungie owns all of that now?
Yeah, that's all theirs. Yep.
Okay.
It's already broken out. Yep. So, yeah, that'll be separate.
Huh.
Yeah. It's staggering to think about.
I wonder what David Crane thinks about Pitfall moving over to being Microsoft now.
Yeah. Well, as long as I get my first party re-envisioning of Keystone Capers, I'm going to be a happy camper. So, yeah, it's crazy. The depth and breadth of that back catalog, and the way that Activision just allowed it to all fall by the wayside for the great Call of Duty and Skylanders sagas.
Oh,
there's so much to bring back.
I mean, is that other than, you know, like whatever Blizzard's been working on, is Activision's only game Call of Duty?
I mean, kind of, right? I mean, nothing else really matters.
I mean, they did that Tony Hawk thing, but then they shut down the developers. So.
Right. Yeah. Which, they'd be foolish not to resurrect it, right? Like, Microsoft would be foolish not to commission another Tony Hawk game and make that deal happen. I mean, it's got to, especially if Skate 4 is actually coming out. I don't know. Yeah, it's going to be crazy. It will probably be one of those moves that just sets them up better for a future, you know, thing. Cause like, I just don't think there's enough time for it to be super impactful this generation. Although maybe I'm wrong, because I still feel like this generation hasn't started, because I still can't walk into a store and buy this generation unless we're counting the Series S, which I guess you could, but
yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
I mean, well, they're playing it a whole generation ahead of this anyway already with Game Pass, you know. They're basically saying like, this is what it's going to be. It's not the console.
Yeah. But just think of that. Think of that as Game Pass owners. We're getting all the Blizzard games. We're probably getting like StarCraft. We're probably getting like every Diablo. I mean, this is amazing. We're getting all the Call of Duties. I wonder how EA feels about that with their EA Play integration.
Yeah, I wonder if they're just like, you know about that? I think we're going
to. But they probably like money too, though, right? I mean, it's like, gotta take it. That's going to be the next play, though, is who buys EA. It's got to be Sony. Sony doesn't try to, if Sony's not already talking about that.
Yeah, I wonder.
Think about that. If you buy EA, that's you could lock down all the Maddens, all the sports games. Like, that's the only big boy move left.
Yeah.
I guess you could argue Ubisoft, but that's nothing compared to EA.
No. I could see Sony. I don't know if Sony has the money for that.
Because is EA and BioWare in bed together?
Yeah, they're the same. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's like, yeah, that's it. That's what you have to do.
I could see them going like buying Capcom or some other Japanese thing. But I don't, that doesn't really, doesn't move the needle the way this thing does.
It secures you Monster Hunter, which they already had on their platforms for, a couple generations anyway.
Well, and that's the thing. I've heard people say they should buy Square Enix, and it's like, I mean, the next Final Fantasy is only on PlayStation already. So like, why would you need to buy it?
Right. Yeah, this is going to shake up the dynamic. I mean, and it's funny that even with this acquisition that this still keeps Microsoft in the number 3 spot, right? Like as far as like console, I mean, they haven't like, it's huge, but it doesn't like shift their market status. You know what I mean? But it will inevitably. It pretty much ensures with everything they've acquired in the last 3 years, they're pretty much assuring that nobody can possibly really compete with Game Pass. Because you just cannot secure the amount of talent, resources, and new releases that they now have under their belt. So you've got a big fight ahead of you. I mean, if you think you're going to take that on, it's almost an impossibility in the near future.
Yeah, it's not even a Hulu versus Netflix thing. It's their market share is 90% now, so it's like it's Hulu versus Tubi, or Netflix
or Crackle.
Yeah, exactly.
And Sony already fucked that up. Yeah, just crazy. I mean, it was almost like one of those things that I couldn't believe. Like I had to like pause and be like, no, it's January, right? Not April. But man.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Game Pass is already too much. Too many games on there already that I can't play, that I want to play, that I can't play.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, in a couple of years, you're pretty much going to be guaranteed that one of the hottest new releases every month is going to be coming to you day and date with Game Pass.
Yep.
Like big AAA games. It's going to be crazy.
Yep. Like outside of Black Friday, like I don't remember the last game I bought full price.
Yeah.
It was probably Nintendo, but
yeah, Nintendo. It's nuts. Speaking of the competition though, did you happen to look at your PlayStation like year in review thing?
No. It's probably nothing. They're probably like maybe he doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah, so mine didn't work. It just says like, oh, sorry. In order to do this, you've had to contribute enough data. So it's like, oh, that's weird. Maybe I didn't use it at all. So then I tried again like a few days later and I got in and it is so laughably sad. I had 78 total hours played on that thing. Only 13 of them are online. And the most played game was Slime Rancher, which was my kids. So that means that probably out of that 78 hours, 35 hours was Slime Rancher. And then like, I think it said I had played 13 total games over the course of a year on that thing. It's just like, wow. Like that would have been that at one point that would have been like thousands of hours and like dozens and dozens of games played. And it would have been online. And now it's just like, did you forget about me? It's kind of how I felt like.
Yeah.
That looked.
I'm sure mine is just all Beat Saber. I mean, that still gets a lot of play in this house, but.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be playing a lot more Beat Saber too with my Quest 2.
Yeah.
Once I get that in, I don't have to use cords anymore.
You can just flail around wherever you want then. Exactly.
That's my plan. So, be good. Yeah, and there again, going back to Microsoft, the reason my PlayStation sits is because we have Game Pass. So,
yep,
it's the killer.
It really is. Half the time it's a turn it on without even thinking about what you're going to play. Which is all, that's the problem already. Sony has a problem already if that's the way I'm playing it, you know?
Yeah. It's so nice too, though, with like all the cloud pushing. Like, cause it's so just like low effort. Like I can sit down on the couch at like 10:30 at night and be like, I don't want to wait for anything to install. I just want to try something new. And I can just play a game through the cloud and it works pretty damn well. And then not wasting time installing anything. I'm not doing updates. I get to try a game, and if it interests me, I guess I could download it. Otherwise, well, there's 30 minutes well spent, right? Like it basically becomes demos of games for me, which is awesome. I played like 40 minutes of some dumb downhill bike game. I played just fine on
was
streaming.
It the Lonely Mountain or no?
Down something? I don't know.
Like all the colors are really flat.
Yeah, maybe that was it.
Yeah, that one's kind of fun. Yeah. I forget what it's called.
I had an all right time with it. It was something. Speaking of I suppose I should do my Xbox update on the Halo progress.
Yes.
So we have completed Halo 3. It is done. I hate the end of that game.
Too much flood.
No, I like it better than 2, but too much flood. I hate the flood. I'm glad we fucking killed the flood in 3. Like, I just don't want to deal with flood levels. Like, I like that they brought back the ending of 3 to basically mirror the ending of 1, but like on a grander scale, you know, where it's like the whole warthog explodey thing sequence at the end. It's not as well designed. But yeah, that was fun. And then we immediately jumped into ODST and we got like, I don't know, an hour into that. And then we've just kind of paused for a while. I forgot how like unintuitive the level design in ODST is, where like you really get lost a lot, more so than normal Halo.
Really?
So that's been annoying, but we'll get through it. I'm actually looking forward to Reach quite a bit.
I'm impressed how fast you're getting through them.
Well, they're short, right? I mean, they're like 8 hours. So like on a weekend, we can sit down with a couple sessions and be pretty much done. So yeah, everybody's having a good time. Three's probably better than I remember. I liked it. ODST is playing a lot better than I remember too. There again, I think ODST was like a one sitting thing for me. So
wow,
it really just kind of blew through it. But plays well. A lot of Nathan Fillion, so that's nice.
Yeah, these are all the up-resed Master Chief stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yep. Yeah. Pretty cool. Yeah, I've forgotten 3 too. There's like flood hunters, which are terrifying because like they'll just charge you and just like beat the shit out of you. So yeah, so that's where we're at. I don't know if we'll pick it back up for a while. We've kind of stalled out on. There was a lot of Halo for a couple weekends, so we've kind of just been chillaxing.
Sure. Yeah, that's understandable.
Yeah. What have you been playing?
Oh boy. So, well, speaking of Game Pass, the one that just launched was Windjammers 2.
Oh yeah.
And that's taken our house by a competitive storm.
Well, it's the sequel 30 years in the making, right?
Yeah, exactly. If you're unaware, it's basically Pong with a Frisbee, but way more involved with the controls. And
there's also, I saw a terrifying like Tingle-like edition called the Discman in this one.
Yeah.
Creepy as hell.
I don't know how you get him. I want to figure out how to do that.
I don't think you want to get him. You just forget that he exists.
Yeah. But yeah, my son is getting pretty good at it, and he's taken me out a few times, and it's been pretty competitive in this house. And man, that game, I don't know how you do that at a high level, because there is so many different moves to throw you off your game on, you know. Okay,
that was gonna be my question, is like how many more mechanics could they add in from like Windjammers, right? Like Windjammers is basically, like you said, Pong. There's not a ton to the game. Like, do they do crazy stuff in this one or what?
Well, you know, they have a lot of the same stuff in it. It's definitely updated graphically and all that. But I don't know about all of the new additions, but there's so many different ways you can lob it, or you can just toss it over the net, or you can throw it sideways, or you can curl it. I mean, there's even like fighting game moves in there to make it do some crazy stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I just don't understand how somebody could have the reaction time. I guess it's the same as fighting games, I guess, but for the most part, it comes down to, were you in the right spot where I put it? You know, that's pretty much how the games go, at least around here.
Is there too much depth to take away from like the casual aspect? Because I feel like the first game was like pretty bare bones. Like the strategies are pretty simple, but like, is there more layers to this one to be? Could it get to the point where like the casual person just can't keep up if they were to just play random online games?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you know all the controls and you can do all the controls pretty seamlessly, sure. I think it would be pretty easy to, you know, stay in line. Like I was saying, I think it just comes down to if you're in the right spot at the right time most of the time.
Yeah.
And if they press the same button, it's almost like a paper, rock, scissors type thing, you know, where you just ended up picking the right thing and the other person picked the wrong thing, you know, with a lot of the moves. That's my experience with it so far. But
sure.
My wife and my daughter, who don't know where they're themselves around the controller as much, not as quick with the buttons, they definitely have fallen behind a little bit. Whereas right away it was, you know, a button mashing fest where, you know, half the time you won, half the time you lost. But yeah, it's a lot of strategy, that's for sure. But
sure. And it's still a 1v1 game. There's no like doubles mode or anything.
Nope.
Okay.
No. I don't remember if the first one had it, but they definitely do some weird stuff with the courses. Some courses change the point values pretty dramatically. Some of them are random point values. Some of them are like have things in the middle that they bounce the discs back and forth. And
there was some stuff in the middle on the first one.
Sure.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, I like Windjammers. I'm not as nuts as like some people are. I mean, people over at Giant Bomb, maybe, but it's a good game.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how much legs this will have, but you know, at least launch week, it's been a lot of fun every night.
And who puts that out?
I think it was .emu or whatever. So like the guys that have been doing all the Wonder Boy stuff and all those revivals.
Cool. Yeah, that was one that I saw when it was coming to Game Pass. I was like, I'll have to check that out, but just haven't not gotten around to it yet.
Yeah. That's a perfect Game Pass game too, because I don't think it's not that much different from the original.
Sure.
It's got a nice coat of paint.
You'd probably question even dropping $30 on, but the fact that it's like there to pick up. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yep. Exactly. But
yeah, no, that makes sense.
Controls are tight, and they definitely nailed a lot of that, I think. So it works.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And yeah. The other one that me and my wife played through was It Takes Two.
How'd you like that? Was it the game of the year?
I think so.
What?
I think this is one of the most underrated games that has come out in the recent memory.
I can't tell if you're being serious or if you're...
I am being 100% serious. I don't know if it's the people that the gaming media that I pay attention to almost unequivocally just kind of dismissed it. And then you're like, how did it win Game of the Year? So I don't know if I'm just not hearing the other people that really played through it and loved it.
Okay.
And I think it's massively underrated. And the people that said, wow, how did that win Game of the Year, didn't play it.
Like me.
Yeah. I was the same way. I'm like, how did that thing win? You know, like it's just some co-op game, whatever. The thing about that game is it changes every like 20 minutes into a completely different game almost for the entire length of the game. And it's really, I think it was like 10 hours, maybe somewhere around there.
Yeah.
It's a little bit long for a co-op game to, you know, find the time to do that. But the amount of times that they refresh what you're doing and how they're doing it, how they're stylizing it, what they're doing in between those parts, it's just crazy how they put it all together and pulled it together. I guess the example would be, I mean, we all played Unravel, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a good enough game. But like, picture that being a 20-minute game, and then you move on to another game and to another game, doing, you know, every 20 minutes, it's just like Unravel, but it's a different game and it's got different mechanics to it, different references to other games in it. I don't know.
How do they explain that in the story, though? Like, how do you weave all that? If it's constantly changing, like, what's the narrative that strings that together? I guess
it's the worlds mostly, and how you're navigating the worlds a lot of times. So, like, you'll be doing, you know, a platformer or something like that, and then it'll turn into a puzzle section. And most levels have like a gimmick that you have, you know. One time I'll be like, you have a hammer and one person has a hammer, the other person has a nail. And
okay,
the whole, you know, part of the level and puzzles all, you know, just work off those. But then you'll get thrown into like a boat and you have to shoot things in the boat, and then one person has to row. And I don't know, it's really impressive what they did and pulled it together. The story is super lame, and the talking book is so annoying.
Well, that doesn't sound like Game of the Year material to me. Then.
After so long, it's really annoying. But and I could see why, if you played the first level or the first two levels, you'd be like, okay, I know what this is. This is just Unravel. This is just one of those. But it really turns into a whole lot more.
Huh. Well, okay. I'll have to give it a shot. I did see that somebody made like accessibility 3D printed attachments for the PlayStation 4 controller. So you can print a left and right handed version of that. So you can actually play on It Takes Two by yourself. So.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
It's a really cool. I'm sure the 3D printing model's out there for you to grab, but yeah, it just redirects like your bumpers and your D-pad button to the other hand, and then allows you to steer the other thumbstick using like your thigh or whatever. So, it probably wouldn't be the most enjoyable way to play a two-player game by yourself, but you could.
You could take only one, is what you're saying.
That's right. Yeah, it doesn't take two. That's so the sequel.
I didn't play a lot of A Way Out. I tried playing a little bit with my wife, and she just wasn't into it that much.
Even after the penis? Didn't suck her in?
Yeah, exactly. But the thing about that is, I think there is some similarity. In that game, I kind of remember one person doing something totally different.
Yeah.
While the other person does something totally different. And a lot of this game has some of that, where both players are doing two different things to accomplish the same
paths, thing. Right. Like, you got one person working across the top of a bridge, another person going underneath. And
Yep.
Yeah. I get some of that, but then you also kind of feel gypped as the other person, right? It's like, well, the thing you're doing looks like way more fun than the thing I'm doing. So then you're kind of pissed, you know?
Yeah.
And A Way Out did not come to, like, and maybe that's why I'm so dismissive of It Takes Two, is because A Way Out just did not come together for me in any grand or meaningful way. It just kind of became a slog, and tons of technical difficulties in A Way Out. I mean, that game crashed on me in several ways.
Oh, sure.
So maybe that's where I was hesitant.
Kind of like a realistic story, where this is almost like dreamlike. Like some of the levels, you're in a spot in the house technically, but it's a very embellished version of that. So I think it's a lot more creative, and they go a lot more that direction. And there's just a lot more, I don't know, Way Out. There was a lot of like tension, I guess, more than anything. The little bit that I played, you had to really you kind of got anxious about what the other person was doing, if they would get it done in time and stuff like that. And this is not anywhere close to that. It's more having fun. I mean, there's like 60 different mini games that you can do between like shuffleboard and like tug of war. It's just like all these little games that you come up to and be like, hey, let's do this and see who wins. It's just like little competitive games.
Just like built into the narrative.
Yeah. Well, they're just kind of laying around like in the house. You would, come across this.
Nice. Well, maybe I need to give it a chance, I guess.
Yep.
I mean, it's on Game Pass, right? I'm not out anything. I might as well try it.
Yeah, exactly.
Speaking of trying it, we challenged each other to come up with some game lists based on our last couple episodes' top 100 lists. And we had agreed at the end of last episode that we would come up with our top 21 games of all time. Did you rise to the challenge?
I did. I picked 21, and it was really hard.
It was really hard. Once you get out of like the first 5, then you start thinking like, man, where do I go from here?
I was trying to figure out where I put It Takes Two on this list, but didn't quite make it.
Yeah, I feel pretty good about my top 10. The rest of it just kind of all goes to hell. And like, I don't know. It's some of these games I pretty much can't necessarily back up where they ended on the list or being on the list at all. But how do we want to do this? Should we go back and forth? Do we count down or do we count up?
I think we count up.
Okay, so we're starting at 21.
Back and forth. Yeah, back and forth.
Okay, I'll let you go first. What is your 21st game?
So I had about like 15 different games to cut. And then I'm like, well, if 15 are good enough for number 21, I might as well pick the one that's the funniest.
Okay.
And the one that would piss you off the most. So I picked a Nintendo 64 game.
No! How dare you? What is it?
Pokemon Snap.
Okay. Wow.
Which is funny that I would pick that above some of the other ones. But
yeah, and why not the new Snap? Isn't that an improved version?
It is. It is very much, but I just put so many hours into that 64 game that I couldn't. I don't know. There's not many games that I've tried to actually perfect things in. Usually I'm the type of thing that I beat the game, I'm on to something else. I'm not an achievement hunter or any of that shit. But that was one game that I really did over and over and over, trying to get better pictures.
Well, I mean, I think that pick pisses me off less than if you'd have put like Mario 64 on there. So
I mean, I think Mario 64 is a better game, but yes.
Not on our list, it's not.
I think Ocarina of Time is probably a better game than Pokemon Snap, but
that's debatable.
Not here.
No, not on our lists. So I went with one, which actually ties into what you were talking about, because I don't shut the hell up about this game. And I know most people don't agree with my assessment of it, but for 21, I put Brothers. Tale of Two Sons, because I just really like that game a lot. Hits me in the feels. It objectively doesn't belong in a top 100 list of video games, but that game landed with me in a real good way the first time I played through it. So, and I've played through it many times since.
It's a good game.
Yeah, and it's pretty much It Takes Two, but you just need one.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that was the first game, right, from that guy?
The first one that really caught on, I think. Yeah. One that I know anyway.
So yeah,
I will say, that one nailed exactly what they were going for with the story. Whereas,
the feels,
the other stuff so far has not.
That's like I think it's the only video game I've played like where the narrative and like what I knew they were going to make me do like actually choked me up. Like I almost cried a little when like I realized I was going to have to play as like, I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but like, yeah.
You knew that that's how they were going to handle it?
Well, I knew as I walked up to it, like once I got to where I was going to get, I was like, oh, I know what I need to do here. And like, that option's off the table. So like, clearly they're going to make me do this. And like the way they executed it was just, crushing. It was good. So good.
Yeah, that's a good game. Good pick.
How about 20?
20, Sonic 2.
Oh,
I had to put a Sonic on here.
I'm surprised. Nothing. I don't think anything Sega made it into my top 20. Sonic 2.
That's not surprising. I mean,
if you're going to pick one, Sonic 2 is probably the most notable one, right? Like everybody spent the most time on that. It was even such a big game.
Even now, though, I'll play Green Hill Zone and then I'm like, shut it off and be like, yep, that's my Sonic 2. I love Sonic 2.
Yeah, those first 3 levels are just fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. So mine is like, just because I had to fit this in this list somewhere, because how can you not? I put Resident Evil 4. I don't know that like that's even necessarily my favorite personal Resident Evil game, but like that perfected a style and like changed that game franchise in a pretty pivotal way that it has not matched since. So, and it's been ported to every fucking platform under the sun in the last 20 years. So yeah, Resident Evil 4,
which I've heard is the one on the Quest is supposed to be amazing.
Oh, the virtual one?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, give me something else.
It's supposed to be one of the killer apps for that.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 4.
It's a good playing game. Like even as that one sticks out too because it was just so jarring, like that weird, like pseudo over the shoulder perspective. Like no third party games just didn't do that. Like it felt wrong, and then you got used to it, and then everything else didn't feel right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
yeah, Resident Evil is so weird because the way it has ebbed and flowed the entire series.
Yeah.
You get to 3 and everybody's like, yeah, and whatever, and then 4, it's like, oh shit. And then 6
5
comes
and 6,
out,
and people are like, "No, we don't want this."
And now it seems like it's back pretty hard.
Yeah. Well, Village is apparently quite good. Maybe one day when it comes to Game Pass, we'll find out. What's your 19?
My 19 is, just so we're clear here, these are our lists, not.
Yes. This is what we would personally pick for the top 21 games of all time.
Mine is Gran Turismo 3, which is another game that it might be one of the highest played games that I ever played.
3 was PlayStation 3? No,
PlayStation 2. It was near the launch of PS2. I basically got it with my PS2 and
that's right.
Drove that disc to the ground.
Yeah.
Actually, the controller. I busted the controller because I missed a lap time by 0.001 or whatever,
Well, luckily you probably had some other old controllers from your PlayStation 1, so you could plug those in. Yeah. I mean, I can't argue with that Gran Turismo game being on the list because you maybe don't think about it now, but like those were so prevalent in, a 15-year span of like consoles that everybody played those to death. I mean,
right.
I attribute those games to me hating racing games for the most part to this day, because I just spent so much time playing Gran Turismo games. Like I just lived for it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it was the right time. I mean, it was Fast and the Furious. I was 16. The PS2 just came out with Gran Turismo. Like, that's pretty much, it was the perfect storm for that game. Now I play a Gran Turismo game and it seems like the most boring, blandest thing possible.
But it seemed so realistic and lifelike back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it still is amazing to awe that it's like, holy shit, you guys put a ton of work into this.
Mm-hmm.
But why do you have elevator music on your menus? You know, like,
and why can't I put a dent in my car? Like that's what always pissed me off. Yeah.
Speaking of that, there's one thing that I remember in that game is there was a way to mod a car. I mean, this is early internet stuff, so you figure out ways to cheat the system. There was some car that you could affect the aerodynamics to the point where it was just doing a wheelie the whole time. And you'd put it on like the Daytona track, just the circle of NASCAR track, give it like 2,000 horsepower or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then put a rubber band and a penny on the gas button and just grind.
Just let her fly.
Yep. It was just grinding the rail on the outside wall for a 4 or 5 hour race. And I get my credits.
It's one way to do it.
And that's one of the top games on my list.
The game that I didn't even play.
The game that I cheesed so I didn't have to play.
That's awesome. So I'm 19. I just felt like it had to be on this list somewhere. Because it is so good. I put Beat Saber. I know that like a VR game probably doesn't belong on the top anything, but like it is just such a good game. And so fluid and like the perfect example of what that medium should be that I had to go with it.
Hey, I'm surprised that you that's on your list and it didn't make mine, which is nuts.
Really? Yeah. I thought maybe you'd have it higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't even really consider it just because it's almost like exercise at this house now. So it's like not even a game anymore, but
now you hate it, huh?
Yeah.
Speaking of that, we bought Ring Fit. Like my whole family's been going to town on that. Everybody likes it. Seems to be a pretty good workout, actually.
Yeah, those squats.
Yes, I haven't done them, but I've witnessed my children doing the squats. So
yeah.
Well, what's your 18?
My 18 is Dragon Quest VIII, which is the one that I played the most of. That's also a PS2 game. Played a lot of that game. Loved it to death. You sure you're not
Japanese?
Probably not. I mean, what am I? So far, 4 for 4 with Japanese games, I guess. I'll break that pretty soon, but the game's good. I think the Japanese actually probably don't like that one, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's no Nobunaga's Ambition, that's for sure.
Exactly. That's like one of the first games that I printed out the entire game facts.
Really?
Guide for that. My mom was pissed.
Your old like at home printer, so like you blew through like all your
it was like an entire it was like an entire inkjet thing, because it was like I don't know how many hundreds of pages to get through.
Oh my gosh.
Plus, all the bullshit on those back in the day, they did all that ASCII art bullshit on those game facts. So it would be like every other page was just some dumbass shit on it, complete waste of space. But
and then I suppose you didn't double side them either. So then you made it like twice as thick. And so you burned through a bunch of paper plus all the ink.
Yep.
How dare you, Andy? So my 18, I don't know, like it belongs up here. I don't know how strongly I feel for it, but Half-Life 2 I put at 18.
Yeah.
it was a pretty pivotal game as far as like physics and video games go. And I did like it a lot. I got to it a little bit later than most, but it's the foundation for Portal. So,
yeah.
Well, maybe not. That maybe not be true. Wasn't Portal like an independent team that they acquired and then they like took their physics engine?
Yeah,
and,
I mean, it was based on that stuff, I guess, that gravity gun or whatever. But yeah, I've never played it. I don't think
really.
No. It's just one of that's always been I was out of the PC stuff when that came out. And just, you hear about it, just never went back and played it, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know if it necessarily holds up as well today, but yeah, that was pretty damn good campaign. So.
Yeah, I think I would probably like it.
Right in my second list. What's your 17?
My 17 is going to be controversial.
Uh-oh.
It's BioShock Infinite.
Really?
Yes.
I contemplated a BioShock game, but I did not go with one. And this is the one I haven't played, but have always been told I should.
Yeah, so that game had so many critical regard when it came out. And I feel like everybody on Earth has turned on that game and said it's awful. And
really,
to me, I still hold that game in just a tremendous regard, especially the ending. The ending is very much up there with a Christopher Nolan twist type ending. Yeah. Which I very much appreciate. Something blew my mind when I saw it.
What is the twist? You're not actually in the sky at all. You've been inside the center of the earth.
Oh,
don't ruin it for me.
There's like 3 different twists in the game. The ending is, I guess the ending, if anything, it's a little bit too grand for its own good, but I like it.
Well, I should just jump in because it's not like it matters if I played through 2, right? Like the story isn't really carrying over.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think it even matters that much with the first one, other than it just talks about a lighthouse, which is like, well, that's the first one too,
Right.
You've played that one though, right?
Yeah.
The first one.
I've played through the first one. Yep. Good
which
game.
Also has a big twist ending too, but
yeah. So my 17 probably doesn't need much explanation. This is the start of my M series of games where everything starts with an M for the next few, but I went with Mario Kart 8. I have put a lot of time into that game with my kids, and I put a lot of time into it on the Wii U. It's just a really good Mario Kart.
The ultimate.
Yeah, now it's deluxe. The cars drive for you. So what's your 16?
It's my let's see, 16 is Super Mario 3D World.
I don't agree with that being that low on the list. It should be higher.
Yeah.
Are we talking vanilla or are we going with the Bowser's Fury?
I haven't played Bowser's Fury, so I can't. I don't know if I could add that. I guess I can. It's the same game, right? So,
right.
Sure, that one would be better because it's just got a little bit more stuff in it, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I can't argue with that. I love that game. So,
it's a really good game. I
have always said that it does not get enough attention. It pisses me off that Odyssey was more well received than 3D World. Because it's bullshit. But
yeah, I agree.
So we're on 16, right? Yeah, 16. I went with Metroid Prime. I could have put other Metroid games in here, and I think most people would, but there's something about Prime looking and playing great on the GameCube, because people forget how powerful the GameCube was back in the day, like among its peers, and just like that complete reinvention of the, because that's like it had been so long since there'd been a Metroid game, and it's like in your head, right? That's what I was playing on the Nintendo. That's what I was playing with those like shitty pixeled graphics. It was just like this amazing, like, hey, they fully interpreted what my 8-year-old brain was thinking. So,
yeah, I mean, that's one of the few examples of that, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know that that's the one that needs to be in the top 21, but I have a pretty strong connection with it. So this next one I'm probably going to piss you off with, but what's your 15?
I've got The Witcher 3 for number 15.
Okay.
That game is so expansive. There's very few games that I got as sucked into of just the side stories and the side quests of that game. It was one of those games where you just head in direction and you follow the leads in whatever side quests you follow and get, end up on your list. And the story was enthralling no matter what you did, what direction you went. It was really good. And I hope they make another good one.
Yeah.
We'll see.
No, I can't argue with that.
After Cyberpunk, I don't.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say anything bad about Witcher 3, so it's definitely not a game I would play.
It's too big and too long, but other than that.
That's what she said. So my number 15, I kind of had to. It's weird, but I went with Monster Hunter World.
You son of a bitch.
That game really became a big thing for me. Well, for both of us for a while.
Yeah.
And I can't quite shake it. Like I really liked what I did there. And then I really got burnt out on it. But man, that game gets its hooks in you.
Yeah.
It's fucking broken and weird and in dumb ways, but man, it's so satisfying. Like the highest highs in gaming for me.
Yeah. And it's one of those weird games that it's like you said, kind of broken half the time. And you're just like, well, why is this way? And they're just like, because it's Monster Hunter. It's designed to be that way. And it's right. Like,
yeah, there's no practical answer. It's just cuz.
Yeah.
And there's cats that cook your food. Like I can watch that shit all day long. It's amazing.
If they would have cut the grind toward the end game in that just a little bit, I would have kept going. But
I know I really wanted to play Iceborne, and I just I couldn't bring myself to get back in there and know I had to level cap enough to do that, because I really did want to do that expansion, but I just that where you and I plateaued in the new game plus stuff was just it was so defeating. Just you can only take so many attempts like that, and you're just like, no, I don't want to go back and regrind for the right set of gear for this. And but I mean, also that was part of what made it awesome too. It just became exhausting.
Yeah, well, it's the same reason I can't do any Souls games anymore. Really, right. Either is just you can't just put 40 minutes in and not know if you're gonna get anywhere.
Yeah, and that was that's it. When you log in for an afternoon session and 3 hours have accomplished nothing other than frustration, you're just fuck.
Or you finally get the monster that you want. You finally kill him, and then it's oh, we just randomly didn't give you the stuff that you wanted. Yeah,
right. Yeah, 100%. So what's 14 for you?
Mine is not Monster World, I'll tell you that. It's Red Dead Redemption.
First one, right?
The very first one.
I would have thought that would have been higher for you. You always talk about how much you love that one.
I do. It's my favorite Rockstar game.
Okay.
But there's parts of it that get a little bit too long. But the story, I really love that story in that first game. And I want to like the second one, but I don't know if we ruined it ourselves.
Yeah.
The way we played it, but I think there's some pretty bad stuff in there as well.
Now, with the first one, did you hang around long enough for like the DLC stuff? Like, did you do Undead Nightmare and all of that, or were you already moved off?
Yeah, so I already moved off of that, and it's always kind of been a bummer. I always wanted to go back and try that, but you know how those things go.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, it's not any bearing on what the original story was. There might be some characters, but there's...
Right. The whole idea of like an Old West zombie take, though, like kind of seems intriguing. So,
yep.
Might be one of those things to put on the back burner and get to one day. So my 14 is like, I don't know, this is kind of an obligatory one because I felt like I could not have it because of the significance. Not that it's maybe my favorite, but Minecraft, I put at 14. It's just, how does Minecraft not make it in the top 20? I guess it's so like fundamental to the last 20 years of gaming, I feel like.
Yeah.
Even though I'm not huge on it.
Has there ever been, I don't know if I've met somebody who played an hour or two of Minecraft and be like, yeah, whatever. No, it's,
right.
You get into it and you're into it for a while and it chews you up and it spits you out after a while, but.
Right. Yeah. It always turns into like multi-day builds and like, just one more thing. And yeah.
Yep.
It's really good. And thing is, it's like changed so much in these last couple of years that like some of it's almost unrecognizable to me because I just haven't kept up with any of it. But the whole crafting systems overhauled, the whole ecosystem stuff, the Nether, and there's a lot more new stuff.
Oh yeah. And then you get into the paid stuff.
Yes.
In the stores and all the mods, and it's just.
Yeah. Everyone gets a Master Chief skin now, but that's it. You got to pay for everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, 13. What do you got?
I have Skyrim. So I'm just kind of knocking out all my big open world games right now.
Yeah. Another one that I don't think people could argue with too much. That's indisputable. So my 13 was Super Mario 3D World.
Hey.
With Bowser's Fury.
With Bowser's Fury. Okay.
Yeah. That had to be on my list.
Well, that's why mine was lower. Mine didn't have the Bowser's Fury part in it. So.
Yeah, there you go. You screwed that up. How about 12?
12. I have Portal 2.
Ooh. That's a good one.
That is probably the funniest game I've ever played.
For as much as I bragged that one up too, like that did not make my top 21. It almost did, but I decided to put Half-Life 2 instead. So
yeah.
But Portal 2 is great. Yeah.
And the co-op. Have you played the co-op stuff in there?
No.
That's got some really creative puzzles for co-op in that game as well. It's like a whole other thing.
Portal 2, correct me if I'm wrong, but that holds the distinction of being like the last actual console game that Valve put out too, right? Because like Half-Life Alyx doesn't really count.
Right.
So that was it.
I think so.
Which is nuts.
Because Left 4 Dead 2 was before that, I think.
Yeah. Because that was 360 era. Yeah, it's been that long since Valve gave a shit about making games.
It's funny that now that you say that, I remember during E3 that year that they had Gabe Newell out on PlayStation 3 talking about it and how they were bringing Steam logins and whatever, some Steam stuff to PlayStation 3. And I don't think anything ever really became, other than maybe, all the account login that you see in any EA and Ubisoft game now, but.
Right. The annoying part.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's nuts. Damn it, Valve. So my number 12, it's gonna be a weird one for most people, but I put Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. I just fucking love that game.
Yep.
It's my favorite one in the series. Like I mean, when I say Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, I mean like the Dreamcast or PlayStation version. The remaster one is good, but it's not. They changed some stuff. Like I just like plain vanilla Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. That shit's good. Number 11. We're getting down to the top 10 here pretty quick.
Yeah. you can believe it, I think this might, I guess not. Persona 4 would be my number 11.
And you are just part Japanese, aren't you?
Yeah, just knocking out these Japanese ones. That game, man, I played that when it was on PS2. It was like the last game for PS2.
That's what I was going to ask, is like, which Persona 4? Like Golden Plus, Golden Puppy Fluff Edition? Like,
no.
And that game's gotten a lot of ports.
No, I played that on my PS2 that was basically dying, basically dead at that point.
Slim, or did you have a fat boy?
No, it was still a fat guy.
Yeah.
And the disk drive didn't work, so you had to have this like thing that worked that like popped it open. It was a whole deal, but yeah, that game I played incessantly because that story is really good, and it's just the style of that game is so cool.
Sure. Could see that. I mean, that series is wildly popular.
Mm-hmm.
So my number 11, even though I haven't kept up with it, just the sheer amount of like time that this game took over my life, I put Rocket League.
Yeah.
Because I basically only played Rocket League for about 18 months of my life, and I played it every day. And it's that good, right? Like it's the perfection of video game personified, right? It's simple. It's easy to pick up, difficult to master. It's a dumb thing that could only exist in video game format, and it shouldn't work.
It's
to the degree it
3D
does.
Windjammers.
Yeah, exactly. So Rocket League for sure. It's weird to put a game like that though, where that like it's only good because of the online component. Like that's where I kind of struggle with like greatest games of all time, because it's like eventually that part that makes it great goes away theoretically, but I don't know. Yeah,
you wonder, there's still like weird server things that keep old like Age of Empires shit going, so I wonder if it'll ever get to that point where there's like some weird hacker that's keeping Rocket League alive or something like that.
Could be. I mean, if we've still got communities keeping like the Dreamcast going, and
right,
it's got to happen. All right, so we're in the top 10. What's your number 10 at?
Super Mario World, which is the top Mario on my list.
Oh man, I think this means that 3 isn't going to be higher in that list.
3 does not make the list.
You son of a bitch. All right. Well, I'm coming in with a heavy hitter too. I put the Legends of Zelda: Link to the Past. So
all right, yeah.
So I got a couple Super Nintendo staples on there. And now at number 9.
I have Tony Hawk 2.
Really?
Yeah.
You put Tony Hawk 2 higher than me?
Yes.
No shit. I thought about doing it in the top 10, and I thought you'd think I was crazy, but nice.
I think I like 3 a lot more than you do.
Right. Yes.
I almost put that on there too. But pretty much all the PS2 ones I really love as well, but 2 is just the classic.
Yeah, and that soundtrack.
Yep.
Nice. I'm proud of you. Good choice. So my number 9, I put Smash Brothers Ultimate. Because how do you not have a celebration of Nintendo's history in your top 10, right?
Holy shit. Does this mean can Crash make it in now? Because Microsoft has put their shit in there now.
Ah. But they're not making it late now. Right? Yeah. Damn it. Why didn't this happen earlier?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Number 8.
I've got Snake Eater, Metal Gear Solid 3.
Nice. You're agreeing with those lists where 3 is now like the big one, huh?
I love 3. 5 is very good too, but 5 is probably one of my favorite just gameplay games.
Sure.
It's not a very good Metal Gear game, I would say, but 3, whole package. I don't know what it was about that had me completely entranced. I don't know why the Cold War and all that shit would have held my attention, but the camo stuff was so cool to me.
I have a confession to make. As you know, I've very much love Metal Gear games 1 and 2. I bought 3 and I never made it out of the opening jungle segment because between like the animals eating me and like this choke point with like a rock, a shrub, and a guard, I couldn't get past that one spot, and it pissed me off because I know what the fuck I'm doing in Metal Gear games, and then I just put it down and never went back. So like I only ever played about 90 minutes of Metal Gear Solid.
Oh man. So there's this one boss, old man with the sniper. That boss, it's like an hour and some long. It just takes forever. It's the most tension filled I've ever been in a video game. And it's just an old guy who could randomly shoot you if you're not paying attention. Nice. And I don't know what it was about that, but I thought it was the coolest thing. There's also, I mean, the whole Easter egg, which is probably pretty well known now, but I didn't know this when I played it, but he can die of old age. No, the old man boss.
Oh, okay.
If you set your clock forward on your PS2, he just dies just because he's too old. And
you don't have to play him at all?
Yep. You just pass him. You just beat the boss.
Love it. All right. So my number 8 probably shouldn't be that surprising. I put Halo Combat Evolved. That's a real good first-person shooter. I mean, that revolutionized the genre on consoles.
GoldenEye, but
yeah, I mean, GoldenEye gets a lot of credit for the multiplayer, like the couch co-op, but I think what Halo did to modernize first-person controls for consoles and like the 2-stick setup, like, I mean, there's a reason that we haven't gone back from that since. So, all right, number 7, what you got?
That's where I put Minecraft.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I had to have it on here as well. And it might be one of those games that surprisingly that I can go back to and still really get into for a little bit again. A lot of these games on my list were a time and place that I was really into, and I would never dream of putting another minute into, but Minecraft's the one.
Nice. Yeah. So my number 7, I did Metal Gear Solid. So I like the first one. That hit just right. Like at the age I was when that came out, and you know, it was a popcorn, you know, it was a popcorn action movie in video game format, like made for adults and teens, and it wasn't just, I don't know, that blew my fucking mind. Like it's the thing that probably made me realize that I could continue to play games. Like I think if Metal Gear Solid hadn't landed when it did, I probably would have just like aged out of gaming, right? Like it just wouldn't, like it just felt like at that point it hadn't evolved yet into like a more adult oriented thing, and
right,
that one really hit home.
Well, and say what you will about Kojima or whatever and Konami, but they let him do what he wanted to do. And like you said, it's not, Konami wasn't saying like, hey, we got to sell this to kids. This is kids stuff. I mean, there's no way if you're like, okay, we're going to market this to kids and then try and have it be popular with probably the vast majority of gamers at that point still.
Yeah.
And then have that much like codex talking and bullshit.
Yeah, that's true. You know? Right. Well, and then you talk about that, like the memorable thing, like discovering Meryl's codec frequency based on the back of the box. And, you know, you talked about the boss in 3 that dies of old age, and you had like the Psycho Mantis battle where you had to, you know, you read your save files and you had to switch the controller ports.
Which is funny because when I played that, I didn't have any Konami stuff on my
I didn't either,
save card. So that didn't blow my mind as much as other people have said, but
no, the controller thing blew my mind though.
Yeah, that one did.
Yeah. Yeah, and then just like the whole tension and like saving Meryl and yeah, I don't know, that's good. That's one of those games though that like, as much as I appreciate it, like that, I don't know that it holds up as much as it, as this is some on this list. But
do you think that? Do you think a remake would do that, or is it just that story's been done and it's over?
I think it's been done, and I don't think the gameplay has enough substance to it to like really make it worth a remaster, in my opinion. But
yeah,
I mean, I guess they kind of did, right? Twin Snakes is
sure,
but some people say it's like worse, like they broke a bunch of. I don't know. I've still never played it.
I've never played it either. Yeah,
one of these days. All right, what's your number 6?
Number 6, I have Civilization 4.
Oh man, didn't even consider a Civ game, but
this might be my only computer game on here, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, I can see that though. Those games are so addictive.
Yeah, that was definitely one of those things where I was going to school on 3 or 4 hours of sleep because you were up till 3 a.m. because
working
it's
on
just
campaigns.
one more turn.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah, and the fact that you think of that genre of game, like how most of those things like have just kind of petered off and become relics, and the fact that the Civ series has continued to just kind of transcend into like consoles and like continues to get releases regularly. It's pretty impressive. It's like one of the only it's the only type of game like that still is, I guess, actively in pop culture to this day.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's kind of crazy that I think Sega just put one out this year that's pretty much wholesale ripoff.
Oh, really?
Called Humankind, and I played one round of that, and it was fun. It's the same thing, but I think I just don't have the time. I know I would get too sucked in and can't afford to put that much time into those things anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you. So my number 6, I went with Tetris. It's kind of a boring answer, but Tetris is pretty foundational, like in the puzzle time frame. Plus, I was one of those kids that got the Game Boy with the Tetris pack in, and that was my one game for a long time. And to this day, there are people I'm convinced that owned Game Boys and that it was a Tetris machine. Like they never knew it did anything else. You know what I mean? So
I somehow missed, I knew of the game, but I missed the total all-out craze of that.
Yeah. I suppose, given your age, it was kind of blown over, You're just but enough from me that
I don't know what it was. If just like a lot of my friends just weren't as into it. Cause I played a lot of Kirby's Dream Land and Super Mario Land 2 and, those early staples of Game Boy games. But I don't know why Tetris didn't. I knew of Tetris. It just wasn't Tetris
can be a tough sell too to kids too, because Tetris is the game that mom and dad and grandma and grandpa played also, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like, how appealing is that if you're a kid? I don't want to play the thing my parents like, but yeah, I still have memories of like having to go downstairs and tell my dad to stop playing my Game Boy because I couldn't fall asleep because all I could hear was the Tetris. Like coming from the main level of the house because he's up playing my Game Boy at like 11:30 at night, So yeah, it definitely got its hooks in a lot of people.
Yeah, which is weird because Tetris Effect is really the first Tetris game that really
got you.
Really got me.
Just took VR, huh?
Yeah, pretty much.
I still have yet to play that. I bought that on a sale. That was part of my PlayStation wrap up too, was hours played in VR is 0. All right. So we're getting in the top 5 here. Pretty exciting stuff. What's your number 5?
My 5 is, I got Zelda the Wind Waker. That's my number 5.
Oh my God. I'm now really embarrassed that I don't have Wind Waker in this list. Because I also love that game a whole lot. And it didn't even cross my mind.
It's pretty easy. It's pretty easy to forget some of those games, but that game.
Yeah. Especially if you were one of the people who got it when it came out and loved it and played through it while everyone was telling you what a stupid piece of shit it was. and you can live with yourself knowing that, like, fuck you, I liked it in like 2001. And like, I know it's cool now in 2021 to think Wind Waker is the greatest game ever, but the Wind Waker was not considered the greatest game ever when people hated it.
Yeah.
Was that your experience? Did you get it like right near launch and get to do it?
I got it somewhere near launch. I mean, I would say I would prefer that art style when I was that age. I would still prefer that art style than the, even some of the stuff in like Ocarina of Time was like too creepy for me.
Sure.
I didn't like. So I definitely liked the Wind Waker cartooniness a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But the game itself, like, I don't know. I mean, it definitely is easier than all the other ones.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I really like the cartography part of it quite a bit.
Yeah.
How each little island is its own world. So cool.
And a lot of people like shit on like the wasted time in sailing and exploration, but I think that was kind of the thing that like made me like it more, was like, I'm on a big ass old adventure. You know what I mean? It was cool.
Yep.
And Tingle. I mean, thank God for the creepiest iteration of Tingle that ever exists.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the dungeons were really cool. The leaf was cool. The flying around. There's just a lot of stuff about that game that's really cool, which is kind of funny that I don't like Sea of Thieves more, considering that's kind of the same type of thing. But
yeah, it's true. No, Wind Waker's great. And that HD port needs to get to Switch. There's no reason that they can't just bring Wind Waker HD and Twilight Princess HD to the Switch.
Oh, they would, yeah.
There's just absolutely no reason they can't. I mean, they've got every other game ported over. Like, just do it, man.
Well, if Breath of the Wild 2 does not make this year, it's almost has to be, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's a great pick. You won't probably agree with this one, but I had to do it. So my number 5 is Super Mario Kart. I played so much Super Mario Kart. I still love Super Mario Kart. I mean, I would sit and do like ghost runs and play with my dad for hours and do the battles. And I had that game so dialed in that I knew the exact like line that the CPU took. So I knew like pixel by pixel where they were going to come around a corner on a map. So like, you just be planting your banana peels and turtle shells in the right spot and like without fail, like because they don't deviate from it. And like to play a game that much that it just becomes that burned in your head is insane. I mean, I'm at least over 1,000 hours into that game in my life, which is crazy.
Yeah. Isn't that weird that to me that like that it's like the first racing game that kind of feels good.
Yeah. Even though it looks kind of butt.
Yeah.
It's not an attractive Super Nintendo game.
No, not overall. But it just seems like it feels good other than like, off-road, but that's a different style of game.
Yeah.
But I mean, F-Zero is the same game essentially.
Yeah, but yet it like, and we all love it, but it's not the same. Yeah, that's a good point. Right. I think it's that whole component of like the weapons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they invented the genre. Like that was the first kart game.
And they're like extremely skill-based shortcuts.
Yes.
That was really cool.
Yes, I agree. Great music. Again, weird visuals, but great music.
I'll say 64 is better, but Double Dash is better.
Get off this podcast. Double Dash, you can make a case for. 64, get the fuck out. Number 4, what do you got?
My number 4. I've got Pokemon Gold. I had to put a Pokemon somewhere.
Okay. Not at all on my radar, but I can totally get where you'd come up with that.
That was the one that I still don't think they've actually topped in scope, because once you beat that game, you actually end up kind of going back to all of the gyms and all of the first game.
Okay.
And you get to play the first game in a very like sped up, shortened version.
Sure.
But it's really impressive that they're just like, oh shit, what if we just put the first game in here too? Or the map from the first game and all the stuff that you did in that game. Here you go.
And what did Gold come out on? Like what platform?
That was Game Boy. I think it had color too. So it was Game Boy Color.
It supported color. Okay.
I believe so. I should know.
That sounds right.
I ran a Pokemon information website around that time, so I should know all the details. Yes.
You just had like your own dedicated fan site?
Yep. There was a thing back then where there were screenshots from some Japanese magazines, like, oh, what are the new Pokemons that are coming out? And one of them was like this blue looking Pikachu. Everybody called him Pika Blue. And that was it. That's how I got traffic to my website at that point, was making stories about Pika Blues coming to America, blah, 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 blah. It was all bullshit. None of that. So you
just wrote these like blog site thing, and like you wrote your own articles and.
Oh yeah. I was part of a whole I was part of a web ring.
What was it? What was this called?
It was Poke Info. I don't remember if I had .com or not at that point. It might have been like one of the.
And how old were you when you were doing this?
Oh, when did that come out? 2000 maybe? 90, 99? When did Pokemon Gold come out?
Were you making ad revenue? Or was this
losing
you money?
This was all.
Okay.
I'm sure it was like an Angel Fire site of some point.
I like it.
It came out in 2000. So it must have been 99, 2000, somewhere around there.
Nice. What were we on? 4? 4, right?
Number 4. Yeah.
So I put Diablo 3. Just when I started thinking about games, I just couldn't argue with the amount of hours I put into something and the amount of fun I still have, even though I've kind of done all the things. So kind of had to put it up there.
Yeah, you can't argue with that. I mean, it's funny how that game launched in such a bad state and how it turned its image around so much.
Yeah, it was really a game that like was meant to play on console. Like the PC version's good too, but I prefer it on console. It works better. It's easier to get people to join a game, casual people. It's just really good. And they've continued to support it. And for the most part, I tried to play it on PC. Like when I got my gaming PC, I tried to play it, but like I hated it. I hated having to use a mouse to play that game. Like it just needs 2 thumbsticks, like in my opinion. And I don't know.
See, it came down to like the text on the console version. The text seemed like it was too small for everything that I wanted to read.
Yeah, I could get behind that. That's annoying. You don't have the roll option in the PC version. So.
Yeah.
All right, top 3. What's your number 3?
Number 3 is Last of Us.
I knew you were going to have that up there.
Mm-hmm.
Just the first one? Not part 2?
Just the first one. Okay. I have not finished part 2.
You couldn't get past the wall of depression?
It's part of that. It takes a turn to... It kind of hoodwinks you into turning it into a much larger game. than you thought it was. So then you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, I thought I was almost done.
Yeah,
but
I still have never gotten through the first Last of Us, but like, yeah, I mean, the people that connect with it seem to really love it.
It's got one of the best endings ever. It's got one of the best intro levels ever. I really love that beginning. And then everything in between the world and everything is just, it's really good. It's really full of tension. It's one of the
too much tension for me. That's why I stopped. Which
is crazy that, you know, I've never really latched onto Resident Evil because of that. But this you're saying is more that than a Resident Evil game?
I don't know. It's about the same, but like I just didn't. It just it was like too much anxiety in like certain situations for me with that. Plus, like to me, the game it's just, and I don't want to undersell it because it's better than that, but it boiled down to me that I was just playing Uncharted with zombies, and I had played a lot of Uncharted, so like it just didn't maybe land with me. I mean, everything about the game should be right up my alley, but yeah, there's just some of those sequences where like you're in hard spots and like shit goes wrong and like there's a million things coming to kill you all at once and you have like no time to make a decision. And I got to one of those spots and I just couldn't deal. And I was just like, no, this is not fun. I just need to not play this anymore. So I probably only got 10 hours in.
That's probably enough to know what that game is, you know?
Yeah. It's all built really well. Gorgeous game.
Plus, now that you can just watch the TV show whenever that comes out.
It's true. And then the Halo show. Well, perfect.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is Grand Theft Auto 5.
Figured that was up there.
Yeah, I needed a Rockstar thing on there, and I don't know. I mean, I haven't kept up with Grand Theft Auto Online. You know, I fell off of that quite some time ago. But between that being built in there and then just that story being what it is and the way they developed it with 3 characters, plus, you know, just the gameplay of like a very solid, stupid open world for you to do whatever you want in. And Trevor is one of the most interesting and insane storylines and protagonists in a video game ever. So
he was definitely the guy that if you don't have to be a certain person and you need to go somewhere, he was the guy that you hopped in.
Yes.
To grabbed a car and went, you know?
Yes. And I loved like switching back to him too, and the places you know, because it's so funny that they took the time to like make this clearly batshit like alcohol and drug dependent character like always wake up in like random places. Like I still remember like spawning to him one time, and I switched to him. It's the middle of the night. I'm on top of a mountain wearing a skirt and like a tank top. and then as soon as I get him woken up and as soon as he wakes up and gets to his feet, all I hear is "Rawr," and a fucking cougar just mauls me and I'm dead instantly. And I laughed to tears. It was so stupid. It was just great. Great stuff. Endlessly fun.
So that was a really cool way of doing that. Just having 3 different characters and just, you know, popping in and out of their lives. It was really cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably why we haven't seen a 6, because like, what do you do with that after that?
Yeah.
You know? All right.
Well, online is why we haven't seen 6.
Well, that's true too.
Sure.
Because it keeps printing money.
Yeah.
What do you got for number 2?
I have Breath of the Wild at number 2.
Oh. What is your number 1 then?
I'm pretty sure you know.
Not sure, that's tricky.
But yeah, is that your number 1? Breath of the Wild?
Well, we'll have to wait and find out.
Okay. I think it's tremendous. It's probably, I would say it's one of the greatest games of all time. I said it.
some people on this podcast might also agree. So my number 2 is Super Mario Brothers 3 because it's better than Super Mario World.
Oh, wow. Overreach.
And it needs to be the number 2 greatest game of all time. And then number 1 has to be Breath
Somebody
of the Wild.
watched The Wizard.
Yes, a lot.
Got a little overhyped.
Yeah, I love it. It's my favorite, and it is because of my age and when that game came out. But I play it constantly. I always go back to it. But yeah, Breath of the Wild then was my number 1, of course. What is your number 1?
Mine's Journey.
Oh no.
Yep, best game ever. Yep, number 1 game.
I mean, I put Brothers at 21. You're putting Journey at number 1.
Yep.
Okay. That's an interesting, bold choice.
That's a game that
above Breath of the Wild.
Yep, I will play that game until I die. I think, as long as the servers are still up. But
it'll just be a much more lonely game without the servers.
Yeah, which is probably where I'll be. Yeah, that's. I don't know. There's something about that game. I mean, we've talked about it before, probably on this podcast even. But
yeah,
that game is just something special for me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I have that same appreciation of Brothers, and we've talked about it, and I don't have it for Journey. I did play through it. I knew you would. Well, a lot of people spoke highly of it, but like it didn't hit with me in the same way. But I think that's because I hit Brothers first, and it's very similar-ish. But yeah, I mean, the reasons like connects with you. I mean, it still pulls in the same way that Brothers does. So
yeah, it very much is.
And the art style is great.
Oh yeah. Yeah, both those games are very much about having a relationship and all of a sudden losing it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
One of them is in the story. One of them is just like the other guy was being a dumbass and he had to go eat supper or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I've only ever given it one playthrough. I assume you've done multiples and had plenty of different experiences with people, but yeah.
Yeah, none of them have quite been the same. Because I think now it's just a bunch of people with white scarves, meaning they have everything. They've mastered the game, and they're just I don't know.
Oh, that's the thing you can do? White scarf? How do you get the white scarf?
If you get all the additions and collectibles.
Oh, yeah.
You get a white scarf and all that. But yeah, I wonder, like, the people that I've played with now, they stay with you for a little while, and then they're gone. So I don't know if they're just like, if the game itself's changed, or I don't know. It's strange because all that's left playing it is people that have played it before, I would think. You know, I don't know how many new people are playing it. So it's just never going to be the same thing because it's very dependent on other people having the same experience. But
see that? That's a bold choice.
Mm-hmm. But you know, Breath of the Wild is, if I'm talking about game, that's my, if I want to play a game, that's the game.
Yeah. Well, listeners, you'll have to let us know what you think of our lists. Feel free to provide some of your own.
Tell us why we're such assholes for not putting Super Metroid or
Castlevania,
Chrono Trigger, or whatever
Final
else.
Fantasy VII.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of shit.
We ignored some major staples.
Yeah,
but these are our lists, so.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just proven that as much as we shit on other people's lists, we are just as we are as incapable of putting together an unbiased list as everyone else. So I think Journey probably proves that.
Yeah. I don't know if that's number one anywhere else. Probably not. Somebody's
favorite game of all time for sure. So I don't know. I guess you'll get the honors of taking us out this time, Andy.
Yeah. So like Ryan was saying, we'd love to hear from you. Tell us about some of your favorite games. Tell us about the ones that we got wrong. Send us an email at weekendrentalpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, not Instagram, not TikTok. But, you know, 2's enough. Just, it's only so much you can do. 2 is enough. And we'd love to hear from you there as well. Follow us and keep on listening. So, yeah, please be kind. Rewind. Don't stop believing.
That's going to be stuck in my head all